Alright, hello guys, how's it going? In today's video, we're going to be talking about the long-range look at potential severe weather during the month of March in particular. This is going to be a pretty long-range look today, and this is a pre-made video, by the way, because today, March 1st, when you're watching this, is my birthday. So I decided to pre-make a video for that. So we're going to get into it in just a moment. Anyways, before I get into things, be sure to smash that like button, leave a comment down below, and subscribe for more weather-related content. I asked this question yesterday, but I'm not doing a comment of the day at the end of this video because today's video that I uploaded yesterday from the time you're watching it, I know it's confusing, hasn't had enough comments yet because it's not tomorrow yet, which is the day you're watching it. Oh my gosh, okay, this is too confusing. But I'm going to ask the same thing. Do you think that March will feature above average or below average severe weather? Let me know in the comments down below, and I'll be picking one of those for tomorrow's video. Sorry about how confusing that was. Let's get straight into things, and I'm rewinding this. And first things first, we're taking a look at our GFS model. We're going to take a look at the simulated radar here, and we're just going to watch some storm systems. This is going to get us to about the 16th of March, so we will see the first half of March on this model. We're going to take a look at an even longer range look in just a moment at some things. Now, we're going to really break down the month and just give you my honest thoughts on what to expect. So, if you've been keeping up with our daily videos, we're not going to be talking about too much new stuff for the first little bit. We have a pattern that looks about like this, and I went over that yesterday morning from the time you're watching this video. And this is going to lead towards some quieter conditions, especially for these regions in here where you're not really featuring the northern jet or the southern jet. They're both going around you. So that kind of leaves these areas high and dry. These areas are being impacted by the northern jet. These areas are being impacted by the southern jet. But there's not really anything going on in between. Now, it takes a little while, but we eventually get into a pattern where we see a storm form in the central United States. And this is really usually when we see severe weather develop, is when there's a cold front here shoving this way. We could see some snow behind there with that as well. We see the warm front up here, and this would lead towards very warm air out ahead. This is a classic severe weather setup. And as we move forward, you can see we get a second one of these. Low pressure system, cold front, warm front there. Again, warm air heading out ahead of it, cold air heading in behind it. Actually, a lot of cold air heading in behind it. And this is the general theme. So we start to get these much more actively, and we see another one here by March 9th. By the way, let me give you the time frames for all of these storms. First storm would be around March 5th. Second storm would be around March 7th, so storminess between the 5th and the 7th in general. And then this is about the 8th with this one. And that one lingers in the southeast until about at least the 9th here, where we have a lot of precipitation down there, and even into the 10th, 11th. We see another storm move up into here. Kind of a, well, there's no real cold front onshore here. It's mostly cold everywhere. But we do have a lot of snowfall up here with that one. And we have a lot of precipitation to the south. This one probably wouldn't feature severe weather in particular. Now, these in the southeast, this is a southern slider / nor'easter type storm. These typically do not feature severe weather, actually, just because they're usually associated with cold being in the east. So when you see these already cold conditions like this, where the trough is centered like this, it's too cold for severe weather oftentimes. The best severe weather setup is really when you see warm air build in, so temperatures building into the 60s, 70s, 80s. The warmer the better, really, for severe weather development. And then you see really crushing cold air behind it. And that cold air is usually featured behind a cold front. And the larger the contrast between that warm air out ahead of the cold front and the cold air behind the cold front, the more intense that severe weather typically is. So that's usually what we're dealing with in these types of scenarios. Now that storm eventually moves away. We see another one move into the central United States. Again, cold front there, warm front there. Same exact setup we've been seeing. And this just continues on. Cold front moving in behind as well. So it's just the same pattern we get stuck in. And again, like I said, this gets us to Wednesday, March 16th. Now let's move on. This is our better yet, our GFS ensemble model here. And this is going to give us the temperature anomalies. So I can show you the temperature setups we're watching for. And around the 5th, look at that. This is the time frame we were watching that first storm. We see that the jet stream is looking something like this, where we see the warm air up here. You can see that, and the colder the normal conditions down here. And at this point, we do have a low pressure system in between. So you see the cold front here, where the cold air will be able to force its way further eastward, and this warm air is going to eventually transfer out. So we will see that kind of take place here. See, our cold front is progressing, likely severe weather happening along that. This is around, again, the 5th through about the 8th. Then eventually that cold air reaches the eastern United States. So that's when that severe weather threat usually comes to a close. Now, there is no guarantees with this because this is the longer range. We are taking a look at 200 hours plus out, but that is the point of this video, right? To take a look at the long range. A lot of you are probably curious about what we can see at this point. Things do look pretty ripe, actually. I mean, the storm setups, the temperature setups as of now, from what we can see, does look like what you usually are looking for with severe weather setups, especially during this time frame where we see the warmth out ahead here to the east, and then this cold air behind with a cold front rushing through. You'd be watching for severe weather as that cold front progresses this entire way, usually in these types of scenarios. So if we see multiple of these especially, that is what we would be watching for. So we get to the end of this, and what's interesting is here we get this kind of setup where we have the ridge out west and the trough in the east, but the problem is that on the GFS model, there's this thing that I've noticed, and some of you might have noticed it as well. In the long range, it loves to just force that cold air to the east and force major troughs into the east, and oftentimes it doesn't end up happening. Sometimes it does, oftentimes it doesn't as well, so that is kind of a toss-up, but this would feature less favorable severe weather conditions in here. Again, you want a cold front crushing from west to east, and clearly that is not taking place here because there's warm air back here. So that is not what's taking place. This is the opposite of what you want. Okay. Or what you don't want, better yet. Now, we see that continues on. We do have a bit of a southeast ridge here. And then the cold air is kind of forcing its way further westward. And then we have a bit of a ridge here as well. So the warm is heading in from the south, obviously. Let's take a look at this teleconnections here because this is very important as well. Our Arctic oscillation is going to tell us how much available Arctic air there is. Right now we don't really have any, but this is going to just keep going further and further down to where we reach a negative AO. Our positive, let's see, our neutral line is about here. I can't get that perfect, but we can see that we go negative there, and then we kind of creep back hardly positive. So we do something like this. And this is going to allow for stronger cold fronts when we have this negative AO pop, so we are watching that time frame. It's going to be worth watching for sure. We'll have to see what happens with that. There is some other teleconnections we watch as well, including the PNA. And this one actually looks very favorable for severe weather as well. We can see that this one stays positive, which usually means cold air in the east, but this one drops far negative, and it actually stays that way long into the upcoming pattern through the month of March. This is the European Weekly model, so this takes up the entire month of March there. And that's definitely going to be worth noting. In a negative PNA, we have that cold air out west that can sometimes move eastward, and that could be those cold fronts heading from west to east. I think this is going to lead towards more ripe conditions for severe weather, like I mentioned before. Now, as we take a look at the temperature anomalies here on the European Weeklies model, so this is going to be kind of like the GFS ensemble model, but different. Okay, so this is going to give us a little bit of a different perspective. By the time we reach that kind of 2nd through 9th time frame, we do get where there's a trough here and a ridge here, which again is the most ripe conditions for severe weather you can really ask for. We have the cold heading in westward, the warmth heading into the southeast and the south central United States, and then that cold really crushes through here. So during that kind of first half of October, March, we're going to be watching in here for severe weather for sure, that area I just circled. That's kind of where I'm eyeballing the most. And in kind of like a worst case scenario type fashion, we see the warmth try to build back in later on in the month of March, and then it gets crushed by the cold again. So those two time periods combined is making me a bit concerned about here, because remember, like I said multiple times in this video now, the prime setup for severe weather is warm air building in, followed by a cold air mass moving into place. Usually there's a cold front accompanied with that type of a transition, and that is what causes our severe weather to occur. Now, the good news I have for you guys is for the beginning of April, which is very long range, I'll say, but so this is slightly good news, but definitely take it with a grain of salt. We get cold air out east here, which would make it harder for severe weather to develop for sure. Unless this warm air can expand and head further eastward. I don't see this as being a very favorable pattern for severe weather, but this could look drastically different, obviously, especially at this range. So it's going to be worth noting, but definitely going to be hard to tell for sure. Anyway, for today's confidence tab, we are at a 4 out of 6. This is a 1-month forecast, so I feel fairly confident that we have a great idea of what to expect for the first half at least. Then we have a semi-good idea of what to expect for the second half. That is a little bit longer range though, and uncertainty is definitely increasing later on in the month. Now, Again, no comment of the day because today is my birthday, so we're just going to be skipping that. For today's patron highlighted today, I want to thank you all for supporting the channel, but especially our platinum patrons, Bill Crates, James Wade, Dovin Nagel, Larry Pan, Mandy Birchfield, Patrick Strickland, Dave Scott, and Donna Carnes as well. I would also thank our diamond patrons, Bill Roberts, Marcus Connolly, Noah Harley, Michael Alyssa Catbite, Charles Stinnett, Bill Dallas, Gary's, and John Khaleesi also. I would also thank our channel members, Catbite, Stephen Fan, and Jeremy Cox as well. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Be sure to smash that like button, leave a comment down below, and subscribe for more weather-related content. I'll see you guys in the next video.